All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today, we're having an info session on Pennsylvania's Ag Innovation Grant. My name is Priscilla Rilova, and I'm the Farmer Engagement Coordinator on the policy team at PASA Sustainable Agriculture. PASA Sustainable Agriculture is a Pennsylvania-based association of farmers and changemakers cultivating environmentally sound, economically viable, and community-focused farms and food systems. And today, I'm joined by two presenters. We have Michael Roth, Director of Innovation at Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. We also have Michael Sherman, Beginning Farmer and Veteran State Coordinator at the Farm Service Agency. Thank you both for making the time. The agenda for today is pretty simple. We're going to start off with Michael Roth, who's going to be talking about the 2024 Ag Innovation Grant, what it is, who can apply, how to apply, and next, Michael Sherman. Sarah Schilling is no longer joining us, but Michael Sherman will be talking about FSA's microloan program and ways that it can support applicants who are applying for the Ag Innovation Grant. Once the speakers finish presenting, we'll have a Q&A, and we're actually saving most of our time for the end for answers to your questions. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them throughout the presentation whenever you'd like to. There are two ways. You can use the Q&A button at the bottom to submit questions in the Q&A box. This is helpful because if you see a question that resonates with you or you have the same question, you can upvote it, and then we'll know to maybe prioritize that question at the end. You can also add comments to other questions that folks have posted in the Q&A box. But you can also feel free to use the chat to add questions and comments as well. We're going to try to get through as many as we can in this time. But if we don't get to them, you can always feel free to reach out to PASA's policy team at policy@pasafarming.org. You're also welcome to probably reach out to the speakers. They'll be sharing their contact information as well. So again, thanks everyone for joining, and I'll let Mike Roth take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much, Priscilla. Yeah, good to be with everyone this afternoon. Again, Mike Roth, I'm the Director of Innovation with the Pennsylvania Department of Ag. Yeah, so just a quick overview of what we'll talk about today in regards to the PA Department of Ag grant. First, we'll talk about some of the grant resources in regards to eligibility of the applicant, funding opportunities. We'll do some examples as well. And then some of the frequently asked questions, and that will be updated as often as we can update it on our website. So there's only a few questions in there just yet. And then lastly, we'll do a quick application walkthrough. And again, this is a resource that's been posted on the PDA website as a PDF. So if you need to walk through it, as well as a pre-recorded webinar walking through that as well. So I'm sure most folks who have looked at this already see that there are four different types of eligible applicants. I won't go into much detail here, but essentially we are looking to do direct investment on farms to see these innovations be deployed. And just a few notes here, a few types of ag-related entities that would not be eligible. Obviously, any operation or business not located in Pennsylvania, any marijuana or cannabinoid hemp operations or projects, anything related to hemp for fiber and grain is absolutely eligible. And then software and app development projects. A lot of people asked, why isn't there sort of an innovation definition to provide for this grant, or can you tell me exactly what an innovation type project would be? It's sort of hard to nail down. We didn't want to be prescriptive on saying this is innovation or this is not innovation. So this is our attempt to sort of provide the guide rails of what we're looking to support. So we have 8 different categories here. Again, I won't go into all of them, but just to give you a sense of what they could look like. They're everything from energy, water, and waste efficiency, to automation, to energy, biosecurity, all sorts of different things that should be able to either reduce the cost of operations, increase the efficiency of operations, reduce the footprint of operations, as well as just increase competitiveness for Pennsylvania farms. So there are 3 opportunities under this grant. The first is a planning grant. So this is if you're not necessarily ready to deploy infrastructure, but you're still trying to figure out how to integrate new technology or opportunities into your existing operation. So for instance, let's say you're a dairy that's looking to get robotic milkers. This is your opportunity to use these funds to plan out exactly what that would look like, how it would be laid out, how your operation would sort of intake that new technology. Now, let's say you're ready to do that. That's where the on-site grant comes in. That's for an individual farm that can deploy those technologies. Again, the limitations of each grant are listed here. But again, this is for an individual farm or entity between $5,000 and $200,000. I should just say quickly, the planning grant is the only different one. It has a 30% match, whereas the on-site and regional have a 50% match. So going to the regional impact grant program, this is where we really want to see that there's an effort to support regional agriculture impact. So it has to be more than 2 eligible entities that are receiving a benefit from these actions. So this could take a lot of different forms, but just to give you an example, let's say there was a regional digester receiving manure from multiple farms. That obviously is impacting multiple actors in the agricultural space, as well as meeting the goals of this endeavor, which is to produce energy from agricultural products. So that's just a quick example, but it can certainly take many different forms. So on this side, we have a list of eligible items. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, so you can always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or ideas. But we're willing to support robotics, software, obviously the infrastructure, farm equipment, and then any contractual services that you need to either deploy, plan for, or install the infrastructure that you're purchasing. An important note, though, is this does fall under our prevailing wage law. So any project over 25,000 would fall into prevailing wage. If you'd like to learn more about that or understand how that would impact your project, you can do so by going to the URL that's posted here in the link. So here are a list of ineligible items. Again, I won't go through the exhaustive list here, but just a few things that have come up quite a bit. We cannot support any personnel with this grant, so no wages, stipends, benefits, or anything like that. This can't be used, most importantly, outside the contract period. And we'll go through the timeline, but just to make it clear that you will have a fully executed contract with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we expect everything to take place after the date of receiving that fully executed contract. It does have to be a cash match, so no in-kind contributions. And we're not able to support any sort of consumable. So things like animal feed, supplements, fertilizers, biostimulants. If you're a facility that creates these things, then we would be able to support you, but we can't support the individual procurement of things like livestock or seeds. Yeah, so I think that's it. One note I will just say quickly, I do have solar panels under other. Although we are funding energy projects, we will not fund the solar panels themselves, but if someone has an agrivoltaic type project where they can truly demonstrate they can do ag and solar together, we can cover the cost associated with the agriculture needs on site as well as raising the panels. So if there's a differential between a standard built solar array and then raising them to be applicable for cattle or other livestock, then that's something we will consider. Okay, we'll jump to frequently asked questions here. So again, there's only 3 questions in here right now. This will continue to be updated on our website, but just a few here. So what counts as a matching fund? It does have to be a cash match. The important note here that it cannot be state-based funds, but we can match against federal, philanthropic, or personal funds if they're available to you. And then what costs can be covered? Like I said before, this is only for equipment and then the contracting and consulting to either plan for or deploy these technologies. And we can't cover any sort of personnel type cost as it relates to this. And it's important to note that any of your matching funds for the project should be going towards eligible items as well. And then lastly, we've had some questions on if processors or manufacturers are eligible to apply. They absolutely are. The key is that they're receiving a raw material from an agricultural entity. And the reason we have it that way is because if someone who takes in raw product of an agricultural product can get new machinery that then allows them to accept new even more, or increase the value of those products, then that has a direct impact on farms. So I do have a note here, logs to a lumber mill. The lumber mill would be eligible, but perhaps the furniture maker would not, because they're getting some processed material already in the supply chain. Okay, so now we'll go through step by step the application process. Again, there's a recorded version of this process on the PDA website. So if it's too fast or too slow, you can certainly go to that and adjust the speed to whatever you see fit. But the first step here, most important, is that you get a Keystone login. Essentially what this is it's a credential that allows you to apply for any grant program within the state system. So you'll go to the website I have listed here, and you'll give it some of your personal information, and it'll give you a username and password. So once you have your username and password from the Keystone login, you're going to use that same exact credential here with our single application for assistance. Again, the link to that is here, as well as if you look at our Ag Innovation Grant page on the PDA website, we have a link directly to this website as well. So again, you'll just plug in your Keystone login information here as well. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask you, what are you applying for? What is this project? So just understand that this is not the Ag Innovation Grant just yet. You're still in the sort of overview page with a single application for assistance. So you can name your project. I usually recommend it's either your business name or whoever the applicant, their name, and just a quick blurb on what the project is related to. So you could say, Smith LLC digester project, something like that. And then it's going to ask you, do you need help selecting your program? You can leave that as is, and then you'll hit create new application. So I should have hit there also that it'll show you agriculture as an option to look for grants. You will then find the Ag Innovation Grant Program and hit apply, and that'll bring you to this first landing page for questions. So this first page here is just your background information. Some of this is probably stuff you're very familiar with, but a few of the tricky spots I did throw in here. So the first thing is your NAICS code. That's the type of business you have as you're recorded by the federal government. Agriculture is number 11. So if you already know your ag, you can use that. But if you need to search your code, there is the ability to do that using the URL provided. Next thing is your federal business number. Again, you can get the EIN number. You likely already have that if you have a registered business. So if you need help looking up, you can certainly do that by checking the URL provided. And should be something you have with your business information already. And then lastly, I'll just make a note here. This is not needed for you to submit your grant, but certainly would be beneficial if you're able to get it in time, is your vendor number. So if you plan on doing business with the state or supply a service to the state, you need a vendor number. And again, there's a link there to get your vendor number. But everything else here should be fairly self-explanatory. Okay, so now we're getting into your project. Again, the project name I would recommend to your business, as well as just a quick blurb on what the project is. Nothing too long or fancy there is great. And most of these questions are going to be related, just some general questions related to your site. So again, it's going to ask you how many sites, and that'll dictate how many prompts it provides you to input addresses. And again, we want you to include your project sites, not necessarily your business address site here. There's some other questions that are not mandatory, but are more just background information to collect for the state. So like I said, it'll prompt you for your different site locations. Again, this should not be an administrative address. This should be an address where the actual projects will be taking place. And I know sometimes people are a little concerned. They see the PA House and PA Senate. That will auto-populate once you select your county and municipality. So again, just basic information here. And the designated areas, again, do not have that red diamond, so it's not mandatory, but you certainly could fill that out if you know that you're in a brownfield site or any Act 47 distressed community. Again, that's just some more background collection. Okay, so this is the first written portion of your grant. And again, when you're in the application itself, these will all be tabs. So, you won't be losing things as you go along. It's all captured in one place. But the project narrative, we want this to be just a general overview of your project, the who, what, where, and why of the project. You don't have to go to extreme detail here, but this is important for us to sort of get the gist of what you plan on doing and what the scope of the project is. So this is the first time you will be asked about your budget. This initial ask is very general. So we want to know what's the dollar amount of the total project for equipment, supplies, contractual work, things like that. Again, those are the only eligible costs under this solicitation. So you may see categories for personnel and other. You can just ignore those or delete them. You'll see the second tab there is called basis of costs. And again, we just want to know, how did you come to these numbers? Are they appraisals, bids, things like that? And then again, for each category, just giving us a brief, very brief overview of what those purchases are and why you are purchasing them. So now this is the next section. When you're in the application, it will be one single line that says, please download the attached file. This is a Word document that you're going to fill out to answer sort of the main questions related to this grant. The reason we do this is because should we need to come back to you to change or reduce the amount of the award, let's say we need to cut down the award amount so we can award more people, we will need you to resubmit this Word document with an updated budget based on the allocation you're awarded, should it be less than what you requested. So that's the reason this is a little bit separate, but it's just a simple Word document. You're going to download it and fill out each of these questions. So these are the first set of questions. So again, what's your intent of the program to support what we call the 5 innovation principles? And then, you explain sort of how your project will address those. And actually, I may be ahead of myself there. I think we hit those a little bit later. But again, we want to know why this project would be competitive, resilient, and help the environment as it relates to Pennsylvania farms and foresters as focus areas. The second question is focused on metrics. So it would be ideal to know, as your operation is now, how many jobs and things you have now, and then what sort of impact will this new investment create? It may mean less jobs because it makes something more efficient. It may even mean more jobs because it's a new opportunity. But it doesn't have to be just jobs. It can be obviously hours of labor, increased food safety, biosecurity concerns that have been addressed, as well as clean energy reductions in CO2 or methane. And that will be listed out as outputs and outcomes. That doesn't have to be necessarily in narrative form, I should say. Okay, the next set of questions, this is where I jumped ahead a little bit earlier here. The Department of Ag has 5 innovation principles. We do have those listed out in the PA Bulletin Notice. So if you look up PA Agriculture Innovation Bulletin, that should come up. But we have 5 innovation principles, and they are, is the innovation relevant? Is it practical, accessible, scalable, and does it value the triple bottom line? And again, there's a slightly more explanation of each of those in the bulletin notice. But just to give you a sense, is it relevant? Is it relevant to Pennsylvania farmers? Is it addressing issues that are of great concern? So something like labor shortages or something like that. Is it practical? Is it something that can be deployed on farm? It's not theoretical. It's not in its early stages. It's something that can actually make a difference. Is it accessible? It's great if you have something that works, but if it's $10 million a piece and not every farmer has an avenue to get that, or a service provider is not able to provide that service because it's too expensive, then that's probably not a good fit. Is it scalable? Let's say there's other farms within your agricultural sector. Could they also use this sort of innovation if they had the funds to get it? And then lastly, and what I would argue is most importantly, does it value the triple bottom line? So that's in regards to people, planet, and profit. So how does it help society? How does it help the environment? And how does it help the economic side of the business or the region? Speaking of regions, number 4 is only for regional impact projects. So if you're doing the regional impact project, you will have to fill out this section. If not, feel free to skip it. And again, sort of addressing how do you justify this being a regional impact project? How is it going to support the work we're doing, as well as Pennsylvania in general? So also in the addenda, there will be a more clear budget breakdown. So I just threw an example here, but we will want to see sort of an itemized budget for your equipment, contractual costs, supplies, And again, these can be sort of round numbers because we realize you may not have your bids and everything fully fleshed out just yet. So just round numbers here of what you expect the cost to be in each of these different categories. And again, this is in that same Word document, so you're just going to keep that all together. So on the page that you downloaded the Word form, there will be some additional questions. So after you re-upload the Word document into this tab, you'll have some additional questions. So the first one is self-identifying which grant you're applying for. So we address those. So planning, on-farm, regional impact. And then if you have letters of support, this is the place you can attach those. There will be an upload feature. They are required for regional impact projects. They are not required for planning or on-site. We will certainly still accept them, but they are not required for you. And then there will be another attachment location should you feel there's anything else that we need in relation to your project, whether it's product descriptions, design plans, letters of intent. It could be a wide variety of things, something showing us what the technology is. You can certainly add that there. The last thing that you will have to download or manipulate is the worker protection form. This is a uniform request across all of our grants. Again, it's a simple download, signature, and then re-upload. And then lastly, you're going to certify that you're one of the 4 eligible entities. And again, whether you're a farmer or service provider, we just ask that you select one of these for the application. So this is your final step. It'll be the final tab. It's maybe second final tab in the application because I think certification is the last tab. But this is the person that has the authority, whether it's your business or the entity that you're applying under. The person that'll have the ability to sign the contracts will need their title, first name, last name, email. And again, that's who will be put on the contracting information. So perhaps you have a fiscal person in your business. Certainly we need them to be on this for final contracting. Again, fairly simple here. Once you complete this signing authority section, there will be the final tab, which says application certification. It is just going to review everything for you that you've completed. Again, the red diamonds are things that are mandatory. So if you missed any of those, it's going to call those out and say, hey, you still need to fill this out. Once you have everything completed, it's going to show up to say submit application. You'll obviously click on that, and then you'll receive a notification that it's been submitted. So I just want to give you a quick overview. So as most of you I'm sure know, this closes on November 15th. Between the closing of this on November 15th and January, we'll be reviewing these grants and selecting them. We aim to have a public announcement of those that have been selected at farm shows. So that's around the second week of January. And we will also hopefully have contracting figured out by then as well. But let's say roughly around the end of January, early February, we would have fully executed contracts with you. So again, like I noted, it's incredibly important that any activity related to your project that you're seeking reimbursement for take place after your final contract you've received your final contract. And this is a 2-year grant opportunity. So let's say you get your finalized contract February 1st, you would need to complete your total project and get closing documentation submitted to us by February 2027. So again, whatever the 2-year period after you get your final contract is your timeline. And so again, thank you for hearing about this grant opportunity. I'm more than happy to field your questions. We'll try and address as many as we can on the webinar here after Michael's presentation. But feel free to email, text, call, whatever's most helpful for you if you have any questions. Again, thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn over to Michael Sherman for his opportunities as well. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Mike. My name is Michael Sherman, and I'm the beginning farmer and veteran state coordinator for Pennsylvania Farm Service Agency. And I just wanted to hop on the call and provide some insight on how potentially one of our programs may be utilized to assist with the matching portion that producers are required to contribute for one of the grant projects. So my contact information is on the slide there. We also have Sarah Schilling. She is the farm loan specialist in Harrisburg. She is also available to answer any questions anyone would have pertaining to the programs I'm going to speak about briefly here. So the main program that individuals would want to keep in mind for a project such as an Ag Innovation Grant would be our microloan program or our direct operating loan. Both loan packages offer people the opportunity to utilize USDA funds to take a loan out with the government and to pay their portion of a project. The microloan is a fairly quick and easy, simple process to apply. And that would be for any project in which your out-of-pocket expense would be less than $50,000. That's the maximum limit for a microloan. The microloans offer more flexible access to credit and serve as an attractive loan package for your smaller type farming operations, such as specialty crop producers and CSA type participants. These small farms often include non-traditional models and that sometimes can face limited financing options. Okay. The interest rate for a microloan follows our direct operating loans as well. The current interest rates for this program is 4.875%. Now, if you have a project that is in excess, your out-of-pocket expenses excess of $50,000, the direct operating loans can go up to $400,000. So that would be a larger project, but it's still possible. So the first step in, seeing if one of these packages could work for you would be to reach out to your farm loan team. We are going to pop into the chat the service center locator link in which you can connect directly with your farm loan team in the county that you reside. You'll be able to sit down with your farm loan officer or farm loan manager and have a one-on-one conversation with them to look at kind of what your operation does, where you see it going, and establish a baseline for participation. Now, it's a good idea for each individual to do this individually, just because each grant application is going to have highly specific, information about your project, your farm, and your eligibility. So there's not a blanket statement we can throw out there and say this program will 100% be the way you want to go, because it is subject to the eligibility requirements the FSA has for obtaining microloans and operating loans. So I saw the service center locator just pop into the chat there. Thank you. So, it's a good idea to, if you're seeking funds for your project, to at least give a look at FSA to see if we could possibly utilize one of these programs for your portion. That's all I really have to say, just because it's so individualized, and a further conversation is going to be necessary with the farm loan managers in every situation there. I just wanted to provide a high level, these programs are available. Keep them as a tool in your tool belt type conversation, just to look to FSA in the future if you have a need. And I too will stay on if anyone has any questions. I'd be more than willing to attempt to answer them. If not, I'm going to pop it back to Priscilla.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Mike, for all the information. We already had a few questions in the Q&A chat box. Thanks, Mike, for responding. We do also have a question in the chat. Please feel free to keep adding questions either way, either in the Q&A box or in the chat. Lindsay was asking, does this grant include a new facility being built for an existing business? We're looking for a new location and would love to build this new facility. Is a new site or building eligible?
Yeah, so the building itself would not be eligible, but any of the technology that you're using inside the building, let's say it's a new cooling facility, If you have smart or advanced cooling systems, you have new equipment that helps you process goods, all of that would be eligible, just not the actual structure itself.
Thanks, Mike. And just to comment on some of the questions that were asked, I think they're really insightful. Are nonprofit entities eligible to apply? Yes, as long as they serve the agricultural community and your project impacts them directly. There was a question also about whether or not this is a one-time grant or if there's going to be an application window next year. And Mike answered that we hope to have this grant every year at $10 million per offering. That's great to know. Does anyone have any other questions? I see there's an open question in the Q&A box. Are walk-in coolers eligible?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. However, you would just need to justify how that's an innovative thing for your farm and your operation, as well as the technology you're using for that. So again, the key is tying whatever your request is, explaining how that helps modernization and innovation.
In the event that the project wouldn't be eligible for a walk-in cooler for the Ag Innovation Grant, the Farm Service Agency also has a program called the Farm Storage Facility Loan Program, in which walk-in coolers are eligible to take out a loan. The interest rate, I believe, right now is about 3.5% for that. So there's an opportunity there if it doesn't meet the guidelines for the Ag Innovation Grant, that you could potentially look at that program as well.
Thank you both. We have another question in the chat. Do you have any recommendations for a grant writer who can assist in putting a proposal together, both the write-up and the budget?
Yeah, so I'm not sure we're able to recommend a specific business or entity. I think there are some in the chat, though, that have expressed that they serve that role. I will say, certainly, if you have general questions or support, we know our friends at Penn State Extension have been helpful with folks with grants in the past. They can't write it for you, obviously, but they can help sort of guide you along your journey with the grant opportunities.
Thanks. Another question from the chat. Could you remind folks, Mike, of PDA's 5 innovation principles?
Sure. Is the innovation relevant? Is it practical, accessible, scalable, and does it value the triple bottom line? And if you need to see those again, those are in the Pennsylvania Bulletin. Again, if you look up PA Bulletin, Ag Innovation, it should be the first thing that pops up. And I believe it's also listed under our resource guide on our landing page at the PA Department of Ag website.
Thanks for that. Another question, this is interesting. Would projects that provide business planning and technical guidance be eligible? For example, if an academic institution was to do applied research for specialty crops and value-added products aimed at scaling up businesses focused on these products, like outdoor grown mushrooms or tree nuts, would that be eligible?
Yeah, so this is not a research fund, so I just want to be careful there that we do have ag research funds that are not currently open, but hopefully will be open soon. So this is very practical on the ground implementation. The other thing I would just be cautious of, whoever is the primary entity applying cannot ask for funding to do their own work. So everything has to be third party. So if you were able to provide those services, those sort of consulting services on increasing efficiency of an operation or looking at new technology integration and planning that out for a farm, that would be fine. But the farm does need to be the primary applicant, or a third party has to be the primary applicant. You're not able to sort of pay yourself for your own work, construction, planning, those sort of things. So just want to be careful there.
Thanks for that. And I had a question based on something that came up in the Q&A chat box. Someone asked if you're not a Pennsylvania resident, or if you have an operation outside of Pennsylvania, can you apply for these grants? And you responded that all project purchases would have to go towards a PA operation. Just to clarify then, if you live out of state, but you have a PA-based operation that you're working with, then you are still eligible for this grant?
Correct. As long as the operation where we're deploying the infrastructure is a Pennsylvania-based asset-based farm-based manufacturing operation. Yep.
Another question that came through the chat is, are forestry, silvopasture, or agroforestry projects eligible since this is through PDA? USDA doesn't seem to like PA silvopasture projects for grants. Would be great to know.
So I think there's ways to be creative with that. So our State Conservation Commission can support silvopasture projects through a number of different programmings, as well as agroforestry practices. This is less so of an Ag BMP grant opportunity and more so an infrastructure grant opportunity. So it would be a little hard to do maybe a traditional pitch for silvopasture projects using these funds. That being said, if there's innovative technologies, either for rotational grazing, like automatic gate openers, or I've seen some of the fence posts that sort of move along with cattle to help them move onto new grazing, that absolutely would be eligible. Same thing with silvopasture. If there's, let's say you're a silvopasture service provider, and there's some new technology that'll help you plant trees 10 times faster, reduce the labor, that 100% would be eligible. So the practices wouldn't be, but those things that help facilitate or ease the burden of the practices absolutely would be eligible.
We have two other questions in the Q&A box. First one, would something like moving from plastic milk jugs to glass or carton packaging be eligible for our on-site creamery?
Yeah, so the only challenge with that, I think that's probably a little too far down the supply chain for us. I mean, the switching of packaging is probably out of scope now. If you had machinery that would help you increase the amount of milk you can package, then I think that's probably where we could work with you. But that's probably a little bit out of scope. But I would refer you, I know USDA has a value-added producer grant. I'm not sure if that would directly fit that, but it's worth taking a look.
And another question, what about funding converting whey to whey powder and the equipment to do this?
Yeah, so again, it may be somewhat similar. That might be a little far down the supply chain. Although if you're on farm, if this is an on-farm operation and this allows you to use more of the resources as opposed to either landfilling or land applying, then we certainly would consider that.
Thanks. And I just wanted to highlight one other question that was answered, but someone asked about vehicles being excluded from the grant. Would farming implements that attach to a tractor be eligible? And you said that yes, attachments are fine. So that was a good clarifying question.
Yeah, so no sort of A to B vehicles, if you will. Your traditional utility tractor is probably a no-go as well. But if it's a specialized piece of farming equipment or an attachment, then we're absolutely able to assist there.
Those are all the questions for now. While folks think of some more, if you have any, I just wanted to remind folks that this webinar is being recorded. So once it's over, we'll be able to share that out on our website and folks can look back for reference. I also earlier shared the link to a previous webinar that Mike did. It's a YouTube link doing the same kind of walkthrough that he did today, if you want to reference that pretty quickly. Yeah, I'll give folks just another minute or so to think about any questions that they have. And remind folks that contact information was shared if you want to reach out to Michael, Mike, or Sarah Schilling. I can put those in the chat if that's going to be helpful for folks too. All right, well, any last comments from Mike or Michael?
Yeah, see one more
sorry. Yep,
yeah.
There is one more question. Yeah, would this apply to indoor grows such as mushroom growers or hydroponic indoor urban farms? In the past, it's been hard to find grant matches for indoor grows. Great question, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think controlled environment ag certainly falls directly in line with the intent of the Ag Innovation Fund. So any of the indoor grows would certainly be eligible. Again, I'll just stress we can't fund necessarily a building, but whatever you need infrastructure-wise, lighting specifically for growing can't be, just new LEDs for office functions or anything like that, but lights for growing, racking systems, hydroponic, flooding chambers, whatever it might be related to CEA, absolutely fair game.
Thanks for that. And one more question. I've been working on selecting for new commercially viable cultivars of native fruits and nut trees to install in partnership with farmers for silvopasture. Would nursery expansion costs for our free nursery be eligible?
Yes, the only challenge there would be we typically wouldn't fund a project that is not a commercial project. However, that being said, you would technically, and again, I'm just interpreting based on your comment there, that you are serving agricultural entities by providing these trees. So I think you could certainly make that argument. We could assist with any the infrastructure needs related to that. So maybe it's forgive my ignorance on the tree rearing world. But if there's any sort of technology, automatic seeders or anything like that, that help you, again, the hook has to be in the innovation side of things. But we definitely could assist. And like I said, with the silvopasture question as well, if there's a new technology out there that helps plant trees, whether they're small or big, faster, more efficiently, then that's also good to go.
Thank you. It looks like those are all the questions for now. Thanks again, Mike and Michael, for taking the time to come and answer questions for folks, explain what opportunities are out there. And again, this webinar is recorded, so you'll be able to watch this again at your own convenience. And yeah, I'll leave you to add any final comments while I wait for any last minute questions.
Yeah, just thank you so much. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out, call, text, email. Try and do my best to get back to you as fast as I can, but appreciate you all doing what you do, and hopefully we can keep pushing ag innovation here in the Commonwealth. Turn it to Michael.
I too would like to thank you guys for the opportunity to hop on here today. Feel free to reach out to myself, especially if we have any beginning farmers on the call. I'll put in a little plug for what I do. You know, we can kind of work through all the resources available within the USDA and our partners to get you headed in the direction of participating in, federally funded programs. And don't hesitate to reach out to Sarah as well if you have any questions pertaining to any of the farm loan packages we offer. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
And I'll just quickly jump in. I saw Lindsay had one more question here in regards to will we share information about the projects? Absolutely. So again, look around that farm show timeline, second week of January, we'll be announcing the awardees. And then those metrics that I had mentioned we would be capturing, those certainly will be part of our storytelling. Probably we'll have to wait until the first projects are done. But we'll definitely be sharing these stories, these opportunities for success, deploying innovation at the farm scale, the regional scale, so folks can learn from them and potentially duplicate those in the future. So yeah, appreciate that question, Lindsay. We're definitely open book on this one to make sure folks see what the best practices are. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. Our tech support shared a link to a quick evaluation form if you have some time and interest in filling it out. It really helps us inform our events programming as we go along. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.